So I played a decent amount of Assassin's Creed Mirage, and safe to say, I'm having a lot of fun with it, so far. Also, thank you to Ubisoft for providing me with an early copy of the game, even though I'm uploading this video when the game is out. Anyway, I want to go over my thoughts so far and talk about the good and even the bad, and there were a few bad things which I'll discuss later in the video. This video will include no story spoilers or even Tales of Baghdad spoilers, so you're safe here. Or are you? Nah, I'm just messing, you're safe. Anyway, let's just jump right into it. Alright, so I want to start off by talking about the world. If you watched any of my Mirage videos before the game was out, I was just going based on what I saw from videos. But now that I've actually got to play the game myself, the world of Assassin's Creed Mirage, being the round city of Baghdad, the surroundings of Alamut, and even Anvil are all incredibly stunning. If there's one thing that I can confidently say that this game does well, it's where the game takes place. Of course, playing on PC with the max settings at 4K does kind of help with that. I don't know how it performs or feels on console, so you'll have to let me know. But you can tell a lot of time went into Baghdad. I love the fact that the map is 3D, which was similar to previous games, but Mirage's version of it to me is a lot better. You could traverse Baghdad either on foot, riding your mount, or using the canoe. I recommend the canoe if you want to go around the city with no distractions, but except for that, you're better off just running and parkouring through the city. I don't recommend you using your horse or your camel to ride through the city because of how tightly designed it is. It's just going to be a lot awkward to do. The NPCs are very unique in terms of how they're dressed. There's the density of crowds, which is increased quite a bit, but of course nowhere near the level of Unity's density. There's also small details of the interior of each building, and just the overall vibrance and colour palette of Baghdad is done quite well. As somebody that's put Assassin's Creed Origins as one of my favourite Assassin's Creed games, the similarity in certain aspects was much apparent. For example, the sandy deserts and even the structure of buildings all reminded me of Origins. Baghdad to me is definitely a top 3 setting in the series in my opinion. However, I will say there's a problem that I did notice, and that's what's outside of Baghdad. If you look at the map, there's quite a lot of large amounts of desert land outside the city, but personally, from what I've experienced so far, so this could just be me, but there's not much out there, except for maybe a few old structures, buildings, or maybe an enemy camp. And these enemy camps don't offer much except for crafting materials. So I am slightly disappointed in that regard. I would have liked to see a lot more things to do or even engage out there. I mean, sure, there's wild snakes, but that's literally it. Oh, and also this happened. I killed this random person and a bunch of cats just came out of nowhere. I won't be too harsh on Ubisoft for the empty wilderness. After all, the game is a smaller scale game, and its main focus is Baghdad, so the desert landscape is there as a backdrop. When it comes to the combat in this game, well, let's just say if you have the attention span of a 5-year-old, then you will love it. The combat in Assassin's Creed Mirage is crazy dumbed down. The main focus of this game is stealth, and stealth alone, hence why the game provides you with a sword and a dagger as your only 2 options for melee combat. Ubisoft really wants you to put all your focus into stealth, and as a result of this, they've significantly dumbed down combat to ensure you're using stealth in situations where you might use melee combat in another Assassin's Creed game. It's very easy to parry and simply just one-shot kill your enemy. In fact, to me, it feels a bit too overpowered. It's a high risk, high reward kind of deal. Let's say if you did miss a parry, a good chunk of your health will be taken off. But if you do get the parry down, you're pretty much guaranteed a one-shot kill, and that's really all there is to it. A sword and a dagger. Executing a light attack is done with the same button as heavy attacking, which once again further adds to how simple it is. A lot of people may view this as a downgrade from Valhalla because combat is a crucial aspect, and the fact that you don't even need to focus on your melee weapons could be considered a disadvantage. I personally do not mind it, as the game then shifts more on stealth, and I'm all for stealth in this game. I do like the variety of enemies that we encounter for combat. For example, I enjoy taking on those big guys that when their back is turned, that's your window of opportunity to strike. And even those level 3 notoriety elite enemies of Baghdad. These would appear if your notoriety is at max level, and they are pretty challenging. However, it does make the game a lot more fun. They're similar to what we had in Assassin's Creed Revelations, so it's good that they made a return. They'd often mimic your playstyle, heal up, and surprisingly even parkour off your own body and dash a throwing knife at you. The usage of tools are all there and they're encouraged for you to use in combat, especially the throwing knives. You could pull off a somewhat double assassination type of kill with it if you time it correctly, or perhaps take out enemies that are just tedious or in your way. The smoke bombs are broken as ever and does exactly what it says on the tin. You could use it in combat situations, stealth situations, or just if you're escaping from enemies. When it comes to parkour, it's one of those things where you have to play for yourself. Watching YouTube videos on parkour in this game does not exactly showcase it properly. Of course, we should all know by now that Assassin's Creed Mirage was intended to be an Assassin's Creed Valhalla DLC, so the repeated animations, running movement and parkour styles are to be expected. When I was parkouring around Baghdad, it did often feel a bit clunky at times, and it was very automated. You're just simply holding down your left stick and the X button, and Basim does everything for you. There's no strategies to take and no intricate movement system like how it was in Unity. Of course, comparing Unity and Mirage's parkour is not fair at all. Basim's overall movement, however, is much lighter and agile when compared to Eivor. It's obvious that he's definitely created for agility and not brute strength like Eivor was. I did have this one issue where I was parkouring around Alamut and Basim decided to just jump off the entire cliff, and surprisingly he did not die. I don't know what that's all about. I did notice fall damage in this game barely makes an impact. I couldn't tell if Basim was invincible at times or if I was just extremely lucky. And this was without the breakfall perk, by the way. The buildings in Baghdad are all designed intricately for parkour, with certain specific routes and paths that you can take to create a seamless route. The structure and layout of each building are very close together, and I wouldn't even be surprised if you parkour your way around the entire city without even touching the ground. But that's not to say it's perfect. If you're expecting parkour in this game to be on the level of Assassin's Creed Unity, then you're way off. It's basically Valhalla, but refined a little bit to suit an agile Basim. Now when it comes to stealth, I don't really want to get into it too much because I've mentioned so many times in Mirage videos how stealth is the main focus of this game. One of my main concerns with this game before playing it was if the stealth would live up to the hype, and it does just that. Having spent a lot of time in the newer RPG games, it was clear that stealth wasn't the main focus, and then going into Assassin's Creed Mirage, I was a bit skeptical. However, it's evident that Ubisoft Bordeaux has given substantial attention to stealth in Mirage. The problematic AI detection system from Assassin's Creed Valhalla is much less noticeable and significantly improved. And since Mirage heavily emphasizes stealth, I mentioned earlier that the combat is dumbed down, so it's a little harder to just go in guns blazing into fights. The premise with Mirage's stealth is patience and planning. I could simply infiltrate an enemy fortress without alerting the entire area, which is something that I loved. For example, if I failed an assassination on an enemy and alert the nearby 3 guards, that's all I'd alert. It was not unrealistic like the previous RPG games, where if I alerted a nearby guard, for some strange reason the entire camp suddenly noticed and went to kill me. The stealth in Assassin's Creed Mirage is very forgiving, and if you made a mistake, you would often not be punished for it. So let's say you had enough of fighting enemies and you wanted to escape. It would not take any longer than maybe 10 seconds for them to lose track of you. Yes, it may be considered a bad thing because it's way too easy, but it does allow for some quick getaways. The emphasis on using your tools for stealth is very apparent. The smoke bombs provide you with the option to assassinate multiple guards in smoke without them noticing you. The throwing knives are great for silent range takedowns. The blow dart can put enemies to sleep, causing their friend to investigate, which would then open up a window of opportunity. There is also social stealth, which is done quite well in this game. There's crowd blending, factions to use to your advantage, and bench assassinations that all work quite well for how they're designed. For crowd blending, I did like that when you're in a moving crowd, it does slow you to walking speed, making it easier to blend in during those missions that fully embrace social stealth. So yeah, all in all, stealth in Assassin's Creed Mirage is the main focus, and I had a lot of fun with it in the game. Okay, so I want to talk about the story so far and how I feel about it. And don't worry, this will not include any spoilers. The story for me so far after 12 to 15 hours is quite engaging. Basim is a character that I had no idea how I'd feel before playing the game, but now that I understand his character a lot more in Assassin's Creed Mirage, I found myself to be quite fond with him. Of course, when I compare him to my favourites being Ezio and Bayek, I wouldn't say he's on par with them, but when I am finished with the story, who knows, maybe I could place him as my 3rd favourite or even higher. I will say, however, there are moments when the voice acting feels a bit off at times. Sometimes it doesn't quite resonate with me, while at other times I'm fully immersed in the story of Basim and all of the other characters around him. I will say I am so glad that Basim is not a character like Eivor, where there's no personality or a lack of human emotion. I like Basim's kind of humorous but also serious side to him. The characters around him, however, are very serious, and it's pretty apparent that they don't mess around. There was one scene in the prologue that caught me off guard, and the mood of the entire story kind of flipped on its head. I did quite like the prologue as it dives into Basim's character more, and it doesn't just throw you into the story without context. Based on the 12ish hours I've played so far, I will confidently say that the story will be better than Assassin's Creed Unity, Syndicate and even Valhalla's story by far, but that could change when I'm done with it. So that's my thoughts on Assassin's Creed Mirage after playing it for over 10 hours. Do I like it? Yes, absolutely. But I still have a lot left to go. And who knows if my opinion will change over time. I don't want to be that person that praises an Assassin's Creed game at launch, but then a few months later make a video saying it's a terrible game. So far I'm enjoying the world, the story and even Basim, so we'll just have to see once I finish the game. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.